What are some of the spammy techniques that you're seeing that work?
What works the best is just writing 50 blog articles per day with AI on your own website. Always for these exact queries like 10 best CRMs for a dentist, 15 best CRMs for a lawyer in Boston, 15 best legal CRMs. And always putting yourself number one, putting something established like Salesforce on the list, and then like random competitors you don't really care about and always mixing them up. And this works very, very well. I don't advise people to do it because it's very short term. But we have clients who have increased their traffic from LLMs by 10x in 2 months doing that.
I really appreciate you saying that it's short term. Not a lot of people will admit. So let me ask you this. If it's super short term, are people doing it with their money sites, or are they making new sites to do it with? Are they separating the new sites on different Google Search Consoles?
I mean, I don't know what everyone is doing, but I see a lot of people doing it with their money sites. I mean, it's not even money sites; it's real brands doing it.
Yeah, that's what I
marketing
mean.
Employee is doing it.
Really?
Right?
I suppose if you're like, I suppose if you have enough domain authority, if you're a big enough site, you can get away with a lot more spammy stuff.
Yes. I mean, I spent the last 5 years in the corporate world. I was the SEO for the third largest e-commerce website in Germany behind Amazon, eBay. So
Which one?
Idealo, large price comparison site. Not so well known if you go east in Europe. But like in Germany, very, very big. So yeah, we abused our domain authority quite a lot, I would say. But the problem is it's not just spam, right? It's also super cringe if your customers go on your website and you're a CRM and there's an article saying 10 best CRMs and you put yourself on position 1. It's weird, I would say, from a like branding perspective.
What about burying that content and putting it in an extra subfolder, and then having that extra subfolder like at the linked to at the bottom of the blog page?
Would absolutely work. But again, people can randomly find it.
I've actually
right?
done stuff like that because I wanted to have more guest authors on one of my sites, and a lot of their content just wasn't good. I didn't want users of the site to see it, but I wanted the guest authors because the guest authors are proud to be on the site, and then they're linking to the site. They're like, "Look at me! I appeared on this brand. I wrote this article. Check out this article." And the article is garbage. I don't want my users seeing this article. And so I created a subfolder called like, I came up with like a really cool name for it. I think it was like columns. It was like a unique sounding, like branded name that made you happy to have like an article on our site called like columns. And you get a column on our site. And I buried that at the bottom of the blog page with a small button that said columns from guests or something like that. And it was at the bottom of the blog page, and then it was in another subfolder. But lots of people who wrote for our site, they were like, "I wrote for the site. Check out and in the author bio for them, I was giving them a no follow link, but they were giving us do follow. Yeah, they were giving.
I did the same.
Did you?
Not with guest authors on a blog or something, but with a similar approach.
I like stuff like that. I wouldn't even call that black hat. I would say that's completely white hat.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a smart thing to do. I mean, unless they start writing about topics that you really don't want to be associated with, right? Like gambling, Viagra, etc.
Oh, I wouldn't have content like that on a site. Yeah, 100%. I am surprised though that you have people who are putting up when they are going to like 50. You said 50 articles a day. That's what you said.
Yes.
And so are they going from how many articles are they currently writing a day, and then going to what? Like, what's the scale?
I don't really have historical insights into all of them.
So you're not doing this for people?
No.
This is just something that you've seen happen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We are just building a software where people can track their visibility in AI tools. And of course, we can give recommendations, like what topics you're currently ranking for, which are rankings, maybe also the wrong word, right? Because the brand is mentioned, like where they are mentioned, where they are not mentioned, where competitors are mentioned more often, which content pieces are being cited, specifically which content pieces from their competitors are being cited. But we are building this in a neutral way. We just give it away as information. But yeah, I know there are people who just take the titles of the articles of their competitors that are being cited most often by the LLMs, put that into a tool, generate blog articles, publish them. And it works.
They're taking the title of competitor articles and then
Yes.
writing it themselves with the same title,
Yes.
and it's all AI generated.
Yes.
And it's being cited in LLMs, but is it ranking on Google?
I mean, it must rank in either Google or Bing,
Okay.
right, to show up somewhat. And yes, this stuff often pops up in AI overviews, so it's ranking to some degree
Yeah.
in Google.
This method of marketing is so effective, I had to make sure it wasn't against Google's rules before I kept doing it. It's a form of SEO I call compact keywords. Whereas most SEO focuses on putting up articles to answer questions how, what, when, compact keywords focuses on putting up dozens of pages that sell to searchers who are actually looking to buy. These pages rank on Google and convert so much better than normal that when I discovered this years ago, I couldn't believe this was allowed. It's less work too. The average compact keywords page is only 415 words. Compact Keywords is a 13-hour deep course on getting sales with SEO. A customer recently said, "Each lesson is dense with information. You're giving years worth of experience boiled down into 15 to 30-minute lessons with no filler or fluff. I feel like I'm gaining a new superpower." Compact Keywords is about setting up an SEO funnel that brings you sales for years and years and years. It works with AI, it's less work than traditional SEO, and it makes way more money. You can get it now at compactkeywords.com. Back to the podcast.
Interesting. I mean, there are lots of studies done that show that you can literally, if you have a nice domain authority site, you can literally just steal all of your competitors' content and put it on your site, and you will rank above the original, which is kind of, I mean, that's crazy. You used to see that happening a lot with Reddit too. People would take some like blog article, they would find a relevant subreddit, they would put up a post with a blog article, and then they would change one little thing to recommend their brand in the blog article, and it would rank above the original.
It's smart, but maybe not the nicest thing to do.
No, definitely not the nicest. I mean, it's just crazy that stuff like that, but I was having this conversation recently. It's always a cat and mouse game. It works for as long as it doesn't, or it works for as long. It works until it doesn't. And I mean, when you're doing these short-term wins, they're still going up against an army of the smartest developers in the world, getting paid the most amount of money that developers are getting paid. Literally an army that Google hires to stop these people. So it's like these short-term things, they're viral and they're fun to talk about. Like they get views, they get clicks, but like, I don't know. I don't really think they're worth it. I do think the guest article thing is worth it. That's a cool thing to do, but that's not black hat. That's not short term.
Yeah, and I mean, there are also people who create a lot of content at scale and do it with quality, right? You can also use AI to generate ideas, but then have human reviews. I also see a lot of brands doing that in a completely sustainable way. Of course, then you have one article per day or maybe 5 articles if you have multiple people working on it, but not 50. And you won't see these immediate results where like overnight you take over the AI overviews, the Perplexity answers, but still companies are doing it in a much more sustainable way. I mean, it's still done to manipulate the AI results, right? But I mean, almost everything you do in SEO, you also do to manipulate the Google ranking, even if we all like to talk about, it's also good for humans.
Yeah. I just generally, personally, I think the long-term plays are the coolest in SEO. Whereas like you can make a page and it's going to still continue to rank number 1 6 years later. Like that's cool. Where you're actually playing the long game, you're playing like a decade plus game. That's awesome. That's what I'm most into. And funny enough, I've also found that when you are playing the long game, you do get you get a lot of short wins that you don't expect to get. Like, yeah. I saw, forget his first name, something Penske, the owner of Penske Media Corporation, who's suing Google now. And I saw him speak in person at the Forbes Iconoclast Summit, and I made a video about this. And he said with all of his brands, and he has like, I don't know, like a dozen of the biggest publishers in the world. What was his first name? James? Something. And, but he's like, with all of our brands, we were playing the long game. And we found that when we were playing the long game, those short-term wins came a lot faster. And it was unexpected how many of them we got. And that's something that personally I really vibe with.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you're making a tool to measure AI results. And I want to share the person we were talking about at the beginning was Gagan Gotra for listeners who was on the podcast just yesterday. And Gagan Gotra connected us and said, you guys got to talk. And so, all right, so you're making a tool for what's the tool called and how does it work?
It's called Peak AI, PECAI. How does it work? Clients come on board, define prompts that they want to track or enter their brand and we suggest what they should track, select which LLMs they care about, or rather which LLM-based search and answer systems. And then we track these results. We don't just do API crawls, we simulate users going to these systems like ChatGPT, Perplexity, AI overviews, Google AI mode, etc., etc. We extract the result, and from that we extract all the brands mentioned. So we can give you a ranking, how often your brand was mentioned in a set of answers. We can do position, average position, like if you were mentioned, where you like the first mentioned brand, the second, the third. And we look at the sentiment. And so where you mention positive or negative context. And then we also look at the sources and citations used by the LLMs, classify them for you so that you can immediately see, was it mostly editorial websites for this prompt or this set of prompt, or is it mainly my competitors? And then based on that, you can make decisions, right? If it's mainly editorial websites that are used and with the content format article, then probably you need to invest in digital PR or try to get guest articles on these sites. Or sometimes you can buy an advertorial just to get your content on these sites. If you see it's mainly your competitors' ranking, then you probably need to invest in your own content strategy. If you see social media sites ranking, you either need to be very sneaky if you want to be that kind of marketer, like fake engagement stuff on social sites, if you're into it. Or you can work with influencers to get your content featured. Or if you see that LinkedIn is a top source, which sometimes happens, then you need to convince your CEO to start a LinkedIn newsletter and be active and write on LinkedIn Pulse about your company. So that is like what we do. And of course, then you can do all kinds of interesting filters, right? Like looking at the kind of prompts where your competitors are mentioned, but you are not, and then specific look at those sources, these kinds of things.
If you were to generalize the 20% of things to do to get 80% of the results, what would those 20% of things be?
The number one thing is to be consistent how you describe yourself on the internet. And for very tiny brands, especially like freelancers, consultants, like people brands, it sometimes works like overnight. Just make sure you use the same words to describe yourself on your website, on your LinkedIn profile, in all the directory submissions you have, and the footer of your press releases, on your X profile. If you're an SEO consultant for lawyers, always write that. Don't once write SEO consultant for lawyers, and on the next you are the legal search visibility expert, and on the next one you provide visibility services for legal entities. Like, be consistent in your wording, and that can sometimes already overnight lead to a change in ChatGPT, where instead of saying, whom are you asking about? Like, there's this soccer player and this painting company, and maybe you mean something else to, this person, he's a lawyer or a legal expert for lawyers. Like, you can really, really quickly influence it by just being consistent. And then the number two thing is, think about where a person who is looking for whatever you provide would do research and where they would trust, and try to be mentioned there in a positive way. Because over time, once LLMs get better and better, they will always gravitate towards the sources that have the most authentic, most impactful information about brands. That means factual information about large brands. It's always very likely that Wikipedia will stay one of the top sources. If you look at very random niche areas, very, very often there will be a subreddit for it with like 1 million users who are super active. If it's something, I would say, Gen Z online game, but not hardcore game related or very current fashion trend related, it will always be TikTok and Instagram, right? And different models have different sources. Some models have a bias towards Reddit and YouTube, others for Wikipedia. ChatGPT has a bit of a bias to quote editorial websites like The Guardian, NBC, Fox, CNN, or others, like depending on what country you're in. So just get mentioned there in a positive way. And if you are doing this with a very small budget, very small team, maybe just on your own, just type the prompts into ChatGPT that you would expect your potential customers type in, look at the sources, and think about how to get mentioned there.
You do sometimes see, I see actually all the time also articles or pages from people's own sites showing up. So what I see, what for me works pretty well is targeting purchase intent keywords and then writing a page targeting that keyword and explaining why my brand is an ideal pick for this purchase intent keyword. And it works very well with Google search, but then it's also telling LLMs like for this specific use case, which is a non-branded keyword, this brand fits in really well.
Yeah, can work very, very well. I mean, what is happening is when you ask an LLM a question or just type a prompt, when it decides to perform a web search, do grounding, they perform they search for these fan out queries. So they don't exactly search for your prompt, but if you say something like best laptop for a college student, some LLMs will immediately search for cheap laptops, or some will add a word like review to the search. So if you check the fan out queries for the prompts you want to rank for, maybe do it a couple of times, and then you notice, it always adds review to this, then it could be very interesting for you to have a website, reviews of laptops for college students or laptops reviewed by a college student, have a page for that, try to rank in Google and Bing, and then it's very, very likely that this page will also be picked up by LLMs. Yeah,
it's really interesting. I made a video recently about how to actually see query fanouts in ChatGPT, and it's you search something that's actually going to get where ChatGPT is actually going to do a search for it. And then you take the string after /C. So it's like ChatGPT /C, and then there's another / and then a string. You take that, you inspect. I'm trying to remember in my head how to do this. Okay, you inspect, you go to network. Then I think you do a refresh, and then you paste in, you'll see like the network populate, and then you paste in that string. You click the JSON for that. And then you go to response and you search you search the responses, or you search the response for queries. And then you literally can see right there. It's if you want to watch, it's on my Instagram, my TikTok, and my YouTube Shorts. But right there, you can actually see all the different queries that ChatGPT used to generate the output that it gave you, which it's pretty interesting how you can do that.
Yeah. And there are also some browser plugins or like JavaScript-based bookmarklets you can use. And for example, for Perplexity, you can just see it. Like you have these little tabs on Perplexity on top. You can just go to the one and it will show you I forgot the name. Don't use Perplexity regularly, but it will show you. Or if you use deep research in any of the LLMs, it will often perform dozens of searches and will also perform a few searches, learn something, perform new searches. Can also be very, very interesting to look into that, to get a little bit prepared for a world where maybe agentic AI will answer our questions and no longer just an LLM with some grounding. So that can also be quite interesting.
How do the results differ across ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, AI Overviews, AI mode?
What do you mean with how they differ? Like,
I mean, do they all give the same? Like you give a query to all of them, they're going to give somewhat different results.
Yes.
And how are those results going to be different? How are they choosing their answers?
So these results can be very, very different. Of course, if you ask somewhat deterministic questions like how many days in a year, you get the same answer, right? Unless there's an issue. But if you ask for like brand recommendations, especially for something that's not like super, super popular consumer good, you will usually get different results. And it's hard to put like a number to it. The more niche you go, the more I would say randomness plays a role. But you can get very, very significantly different results. Like I have seen brands that are number one in some of the LLMs, but then they are not in the top 10 in others. So I've seen some that were number one in Google, Perplexity, Gemini. They will always be like number one, number two. But then if you look in DeepSeek, they are like number 11, which is not relevant for most. But actually, I worked with one brand where it was relevant because they were one of these brands where when rich Chinese tourists come to their country, they might actually go there and buy something. So there's a higher chance that DeepSeek is somewhere used in the user journey. But I mean, otherwise, most companies that I work with don't care that much about DeepSeek. And in terms of sources, I think the biggest difference is which source types and which sources get like a bit of a bias in some systems. So Google loves Reddit. Perplexity really loves YouTube, and Google also loves YouTube, coincidentally. I mean, they also own it. But ChatGPT is much, much, much less focused on YouTube results. Then you have some large websites that block some of these, but not others. Like usually nobody's blocking Google, but some large publishers are blocking ChatGPT or Perplexity, so then they don't show up at all. But then you also have publishers who have brokered deals with ChatGPT, and I have the feeling these tend to show up a little bit more often. Would also make sense if they maybe have some kind of deal where they offer an API to get data without crawling. So it would make sense for ChatGPT to show them more often. And then I already mentioned, I think this ChatGPT has this bias in general for editorial websites. Like I will sometimes see that ChatGPT, like 8 of the top 10 sources for a set of prompts are editorial websites. And then in Perplexity, in AI overviews, in Gemini, it's like maybe 2. Perplexity has for some topics a bias towards official website, like government websites, universities, NGOs. Of course, not for every topic, right? But for some topics they do. But these biases can also change over time. So it makes no sense to sit down today and say, Perplexity has this bias and I will only do this. Maybe there's an update in 3 months and it's different, right? These things are not set in stone.
Yeah, I really agree with that last part too. Like they're not set in stone. The algorithms are changing. That's why I think it's best to think about your AI strategy from fundamental principles that are going to make sense. They're going to make sense today, and they're going to make sense next year, and they're going to make sense in 2 years. And that's something that also I don't see enough people doing, is they're thinking about these short-term things that, to your point, aren't going to work 6 months from now. And it's like, oh, you just wasted, cool, you got a little short-term win, and now you have to figure something else out. Whereas like you could have a long-term strategy, and then you just continue to win year after year after year after year. I want to ask you, there are so many AI experts, geo experts. It's honestly nauseating. So what are some of the big myths that you see with getting covered by AI that just keep on What are some things that piss you off that you're like, I cannot see another person say this. It's driving me crazy. Things like that.
Yeah, I think there's this myth that you need to completely rewrite your content and you need to have a ton of structured data and you need to rewrite all of your headlines to questions and you need to think so much about chunking. And often there's some truth to all of these claims. But for example, the whole thing about structured data, almost all of it is based just on correlation studies. And if you look at how LLMs work, probably in most cases, they don't really look at the structured data. But I mean, of course, still, it can help with maybe just the ranking in Google. LLMs could potentially pick the sources, or very, very likely pick the sources already based on the snippet provided by the search service they use, and maybe the rich snippet, that the feature snippet can give you plays a role there. But many people just factually say you need to have like 5 different structured data elements on the website. But if it just makes no sense to have structured data there, if there's no format that is supported for your content format, then don't invest time in it. But the worst one is the LLMs.txt for me. Because if you look at what the person who proposed it said, it was for helping LLMs understand the website. If you look at reputable companies using it, it's always for the AI documentation. The LLMs.txt is always a file they use for vibe coding tools, for maybe AI agents doing software development. Here you found the API documentation. Here's the API documentation quick start guide. Here's the documentation on how to get, city level data, country level data. Here's how you get organization level data. Here's how you use filters, etc., etc. And then some SEOs had this idea, LLMs.txt, that sounds like robots.txt. Probably I just put my keywords in there and I will rank. And every single large LLM company has either said we don't use it, or they have not commented about it at all, but then they are not themselves using it. And the ones that are using it themselves, they again use it for the developer documentation. And the thought that a search and answer engine would tell people, here is the file where you just put the keywords you want to rank for, is so absurd. It's like the meta keywords, where Google more than 15 years ago figured out maybe having this meta keywords where people just put the keywords they want to rank for will not give me valuable information. And also, if you think about how Google has evolved, anything that you as the website owner have 100% control over and can manipulate, especially if it's invisible to human users, is something that people will abuse and is something that over time will not be relevant anymore. And the LLMs.txt was just never relevant for ranking, ever.
I was, right when it was announced, I made an episode, what it is, and this is a waste of time. And a lot of people hated me for it. But I'm like, I literally looked at the biggest content marketing sites there were. I looked at HubSpot. I looked at content marketing or blogs. I looked at Neil Patel. Neil Patel is going real hard on generative engine optimization. I looked at all of these sites. No one. I looked at Ahrefs. I looked at SEMrush. I looked at Moz. No one was using LLMs.txt, and everyone was going, oh, it's the next big thing. I even saw, I think it was Andreessen Horowitz that put it in, like they wrote an article about generative engine optimization and how it's the future, and we have things like the LLMs.txt, and I'm like, no, you don't. No one is using this, and you shouldn't. And I also think there was some potential for it to go wrong, whereas like you could do it the wrong way, and like you wouldn't put thought into it, because then some people were generating theirs in like 5 minutes or 2 minutes, and you would do it the wrong way. You would put some information on it, and if it was cited, it wouldn't be like a good representation of you. It was just a awful waste that was perpetuated. Also, I want to go back to what you were saying about Schema, because I think this is like, let me ask you, why do you think so many SEOs are saying you need Schema to show up in AI?
I think one thing is the same as with the LLMs.txt. It's a very simple thing. Like once you decide to do it, you know exactly what to do. So you can do it with confidence. You can feel good about it because you start it and you end it and then it's done. So you have this feeling of accomplishment. If you add Schema manually to 100 pages, you can do, this is my task. Once I'm done, I will rank better. You can also bill it to clients easily. And I think many people have like the sense of they no longer know what to do for AI, and this doesn't feel good. And then I think people gravitate to very, very simple solutions. Also, there were a lot of studies that simply showed pages that are often cited by LLMs on average have more Schema. But again, it's just correlation data. And I spent 5 years working at Searchmetrics and an SEO enterprise software. We invented these ranking factor studies actually many, many years ago. We're the first ones who did these big correlation analysis. And I can tell you, if you look at correlation for hundreds of data points, there will be random correlation. Like it's almost guaranteed. If you look at 200 metrics, there will be a correlation, but it doesn't mean that there's any causation. It can just randomly happen. And I think this like critical statistical thinking is not something where many people are strong. People like simple solutions, simple answers. And by the way, I'm not saying schema doesn't work. I'm just saying nobody has actually proven that it works. And it's very unlikely that it always works and is always the solution. Like life is not that simple, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that's why people are using it. And of course, there are many, many influencers, also many large tools that just promote it because they want to promote something and they don't have anything else. So they just quote a couple of things that are out there. So they say, use LLMs.txt. I mean, how many tools have now built an LLMs.txt generator? Yeah, and then they can also say, yeah, use schema. Here's this 3 checklist, do this, and then it's done. But it's probably not that easy.
Yeah, I think it's expensive. It costs money to maintain. I think sure there's like a default schema that people should be using. Fine, but a lot of that is just built into the most popular CMSs. But like the niche schema, from what I've seen, is completely unnecessary, and oftentimes it's unnecessary for SEO. It's like Google literally says, like, yeah, if you use schema, we might ignore it. Good chance we're going to ignore it. Like, I agree with the correlation bit there. And I think it's a type of thing that's, you said it was simple, but with niche schema, I think it's complex enough that you see agencies charging a lot of money for it. And
yeah, of course. Yeah. You can make it seem very complex when the client has like a unique content management system. Maybe it's in an obscure language that it was developed, especially if there are multiple systems stitched together. You can make it very complicated, of course. And it also is complicated on some legacy systems where you have very little control over things.
Yeah. So you have a crazy history in SEO. What are some of the things that just completely changed your perception in like experiments that you saw, results that you saw, things where you're like, I didn't expect this, and this completely changed how I think about search, and especially things that are still relevant today?
Yeah, I think I have 2 very concrete things. One is we, at a e-commerce company where I worked, we had the system that would look at the internal searches our users are performing. And if a certain keyword was searched, I don't know, X times per month, per day, and users had a good experience, so they would actually buy something, we would just create a landing page for it automatically. We would turn this internal search into a landing page. Because usually you don't want Google to see your internal search, but when we were sure there is demand, we have the inventory, we created it. And on the first couple of weeks of Corona, I once got a Teams message like, Malte, the system is broken, something is wrong. Suddenly there's like, on this specific type, there's like 70% SEO traffic, 80% SEO traffic, something is wrong with the internal search. And what happened is, back then users were looking for these FFP2 masks. Or I think depending on country, you would use other letter codes. And usually as an SEO, I would say, okay, the landing page is FFP2 space mask. But people were in a panic. Some would type FFP space 2 mask. And back then, we created a specific landing page for that. The system did it automatically. And we ranked for it. Because Google needed about 3 weeks to figure out that all of these different ways, how you can type FFP2 mask with various spaces in the words, that they all mean the same thing. At an SEO, I would have said, no, we will not create 20,000 landing pages for FFP2 masks. We probably need 100 different ones. But it was good that the system created 10,000 because we got insane amounts of traffic because of it. At some point, the problem was that all the shops we were crawling, they no longer had the masks, so we also no longer had the inventory. But this is something that showed me that yes, Google can understand synonyms and entities, but if a new topic occurs with very high search demand, Google literally will think that FFP space 2 mask is a new word, and requires its own landing page. And so this was something that I thought Google was already further ahead. But looks like when there are new keywords, new topics coming up, Google needs a while to catch up. So that was a very big learning for me. And then there was always this debate about, is Google using the click data or not? And I was always convinced they're using it. Just if I was to build a search engine, had this data, of course I would use it. And there was this one Google leak. Plus there were some things that came out in the lawsuit that also made me very, very happy that there's now a lot more transparency around these things, how Google is using the data. I think these were two big moments for me. Yeah, these
Dude,
are, I
I'm
think,
really glad that Gog and Gotra connected us, because you were speaking my language. Like I cite the Google leak all the time on the show. It is crazy some of the things that were revealed in it. For example, in the Google leak, it was revealed that exact match domains actually get like a slight decline, a slight. They perform slightly worse because Google actually it not penalizes them, but what's the word? Demotes them a little bit. It's not to say that they can't work, because you see them working all the time, but it's actually not. It's not ideal for SEO like people would think. I think when you do see exact match domains working, it's actually because the exact match domain, the homepage is a page, and somebody just optimized that page for the specific keyword in a way that will satisfy search intent. It's not because you bought an exact match domain. It's correlation, not causation.
I think in the past there actually was an advantage.
In the past, absolutely.
And that's why Google introduced this demotion, yeah.
Yes.
But nowadays, I also often see people being so proud, hey, I bought this expired domain, exact keywords. The domain is like 21 years old. It will rank so amazing. Then you look at it. It was like offline for 20 years, or maybe in between like some domain parking. Like that age doesn't matter, and nobody cares that it's an exact match domain. Also, something like keyword minus blog.net is not really an exact match. Like, yeah, people definitely over-index on that topic way too much. The ship has sailed, I think, for these.
And then what you were saying with click data. So it was, I think this was in the Google leak. I was like one of the first people to cover it, and I covered Rand Fishkin's article on SparkToro about it. And he wrote in that article that Chrome was created to get this click data. Chrome was created because Google said, if we knew what people were clicking on and staying in, a long click versus a short click, we can have better output for search, which is crazy. And that's why I was personally really worried that Google was going to lose Chrome. And I'm really glad that they get to keep it, because like that would be such a terrible loss of data. And people complain that the results are bad, but I think if they lost Chrome, the results would be a lot worse.
Maybe another search engine would then have better results. Yeah,
maybe. People say that I like Google too much. That's a criticism that I get.
I was just gonna say, I think I'm less of a Google fanboy than you. I was looking for a nice way to say it.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
I'm aware. Yeah, that's true. Maybe there would be, but I don't know. I think to actually have the click data is pretty helpful to see what users are clicking on and staying in, and then and pogo sticking, seeing all of that stuff. I think if you're building an algorithm, like you said, you want that data.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Google leak was crazy. Yeah. What are some other things that you're seeing right now that are just like, I'm surprised that this works? Like things that are I'm surprised like every day with SEO.
With SEO, I don't really have good examples right now. What I find interesting is that if you use Grok, the LLM from XAI, sometimes a single tweet or single post on X, as you now have to say, is the main source it picks. Like I had one example recently where it would pull 25 websites as sources and one tweet. And what was written in the tweet was almost word for word used in the answer that Grok gave. So I believe they are really giving a lot of weight to X. So if you are active in one of the regions where Grok is big, like India, for example, I actually don't know any other country where Grok is big. Being on X and writing on like big X account, very specific posts using very specific terminology might be very helpful or seems to be very helpful to change the results of Grok.
That's actually, yeah, that's really interesting. Thinking about Grok like that. I think Grok shared chats were being indexed in Google for a bit. It was shared chats, or there was some way to actually have your Grok, and Grok was showing up in Google search. There was the same with Claude artifacts, which were showing up in Google search, and Perplexity was literally synthesizing and quoting these Claude art. This doesn't work anymore. This is probably because of like people like me talking about it on my podcast. But yeah, it used to work, and Perplexity would quote it, but ChatGPT knew better, and they're like, no, we're not gonna quote Claude. Like come on. Yeah, and so like you could not get ChatGPT to quote Claude, but Perplexity would do it ad nauseum. AI overviews would do it a ton. They were showing up number one. You could get them to show up for non-branded searches. Yeah, that stuff was really crazy. All right, what should, okay? There's a lot that we talked about on this show. If you were to recommend to a new website something to focus on, like right now, like there's so many things that we talked about. Maybe like 3 things to focus on. What would you narrow them down to?
For a brand new website,
Yeah.
be consistent in how you describe yourself all over the internet, and create as many proof points as possible so that Google and other engines are inclined to trust you. So whatever industry you're in, look at what like the high reputation, high trust websites are doing and try to do that. That can mean have an X profile and be active. That probably means have a LinkedIn company profile and fill it out. I mean, if it fits, right, with your super tiny affiliate niche, that might just not be something you can do. And just try to give engines, think about how engines could algorithmically think about trust and authoritativeness and like how big of a brand really is, and try to send these signals. And think about if what you are building today will actually still matter in 1 year, in 2 years, in 3 years. Because like 3 years ago, there were many kinds of affiliate businesses, for example. I would have still said, yeah, build it, like can work on Google very well. But now with ChatGPT, with a potential future that becomes more agentic, with maybe new kinds of wearable devices, where it's just not clear if even smartphones will look the same as they look now in 5 years, right? There are at least 3 companies right now developing app-less smartphones, which is crazy that like then you don't have apps anymore. So really think about what I'm building. Will it be worth it something in a couple of years? And if not, maybe don't build it, or be very intentional about just doing the scammy, short-term, quick win stuff, which can be fine if you're not building a long-term brand.
How do you feel about Cloudflare? Cloudflare's move to default block all AI crawlers.
I hate it, and I have multiple times accused Cloudflare of agentism, because I think there will just be a world where some part of the population is using agentic browsers, and to treat all of these use cases the same is just ridiculous. And then outright blocking everything that is somehow AI, LLM, agent related I think it's ridiculous. And I mean, I never again want to go back to read 3 long blog articles to understand something that an LLM can summarize for me in 3 minutes. And I think there are many other people who prefer that. And I think Cloudflare wants to become the new operating system on the internet. They want to become the number one gatekeeper. And I think if they manage to do it, they will be much, much worse than Google ever was, or Facebook. And they get a lot of good press for it right now because people are, yeah, anti-AI, it's great. But I actually think it will be very, very horrible for the internet. And Cloudflare is kind of like ending the open internet by just blocking half the users or half the use cases. And I really don't like it.
Do you think it's
Otherwise,
going to work?
I'm a huge fan of Cloudflare.
Okay.
Amazing company,
Yeah.
great stuff. But this thing, I really disagree with them.
Do you think it's going to work?
I fear that they have enough power to make it work to a certain degree. But I think it will just be a bit of a delay. Like, there will be companies not using that feature or not being on Cloudflare, and then LLMs will just pull data from them. AI agents will just start using them. I mean, it's always this prisoner's dilemma, right? If you are like the 10 largest e-commerce website, of course you will allow AI agents to buy on your website. If you are the largest one, maybe you don't allow it. You want to force people to actually use you. It will not work. Like, people will give up or businesses will just end. It will never come back that people get a ton of SEO traffic like last year or this year when more and more answers are given by AI engines or LLM-based engines.
I'll tell you what kind of surprised me. I moved a bunch of sites over to Cloudflare actually just a couple of days ago. I switched my name servers to Cloudflare. And when I was doing that, within Cloudflare, when I was setting it up, I selected allow AI to crawl these sites. And I think I even toggled off, like, don't put it in a robots.txt, like something like that, because I wanted AI to crawl my sites. And maybe this was a bug with Cloudflare, and I'll say it was a bug. Obviously, I don't know. But despite doing that, once the sites were set up, there was a robots.txt file that was blocking every single AI crawler. And then I had to re-go in and toggle it off once again. And it was like in this place that it took me a while to find. I'm like, why? Wasted a couple of hours trying to find it. And even though from the start I selected it to be off, it was still it was quite. But it could be a bug. So there was this study from Datos, a Semrush company, and Datos found, I mean, it's increasing month over month slightly, but Datos found that at least desktop, I think it's desktop in the US, it's like AI tools make up 0.65%, 0.64% market share, and traditional search is still like 9.6%. How much more do you see this shifting in let's say the next year, and then the next, oh man, this is going to create some FOMO. This is probably a bad question to ask. In the next 3 years?
I think clicks from traditional 10 blue link search will decline by at least 50% over the next 3 years. And I believe half of all searches at least will be answered by LLM-based search and answer engines. And we shouldn't forget that also Google is now, depending on which study you trust, maybe 20%, maybe 25%, maybe 33% of keywords have an AI overview, which is also an LLM-generated answer.
That's true. Yeah.
And I believe Google will either push AI mode more or take features out of AI mode and display them on the regular search results. So even if people switch very slowly from Google to Perplexity and ChatGPT and co, just the change that Google is making will just lead to at least half of all searches just being answered by AI. Google is also now starting these agentic shopping experiences where you can basically start the agent to buy from the search results, right? They have been testing things in that direction, especially in the US for so many years. They had this click to checkout button once where you saw a product and you clicked and you landed in the checkout with that, in the shop with the checkout with that product selected. You didn't even go to the product page anymore. It was opt-in, so the online shops that participated were opt-in. Google had this test where they highlighted shops where you could pay with Google Wallet, as they had marked them as safe. It's a test they stopped pretty quickly because it was also like big green, like very, very obvious. And I think Google just wants that you go to the Google search, you ask what gravel bike should I buy? You ask some follow-up questions, it shows you the bike, you click, it's bought. You never visit an online shop, you never read a product page, you never watch a product video that's not from YouTube or AI generated. You never need to watch an image gallery that's not called Google Image Search. I think all of that will happen on Google. That is very, very obviously their end play for e-commerce. So yeah, I think at least 50% AI search.
Okay, so do you agree with Dharmesh, the co-founder of HubSpot? I don't know if you saw him on My First Million proclaiming that SEO is dead.
SEO as a discipline is not dead. There will be SEO jobs for a long time. But I think SEO as the default growth channel for many companies is dead. Like if you had a certain kind of business, like if you were an aggregator, for example, and you were doing your job somewhat good, for the last 10 years, you could always assume 10% growth just from SEO. If you are doing your job really good, you could assume 20% growth year over year just from SEO. And I'm talking about big websites with like hundreds of employees, not like small affiliate site that can grow hundreds of times within a single year. And I think that is over because the total cake is becoming smaller and smaller. And it used to be that the cake is growing. So even if you kept 10% of the market, your piece in total was growing. But now this cake of traffic is shrinking. And unless you get a bigger piece, you will shrink as well. So SEO as a growth channel, I think, is dead for a lot of companies. A lot of companies, especially.
Are you talking mostly big companies?
Yes, but I've always worked in like the big company, big website space. I think for smaller ones, it just becomes more and more competitive. So there will always be smart indie hackers that figure it out, become millionaire within 1 or 2 years, either because they are lucky or a genius. Like this will always be the case. But it will become more and more and more and more competitive because there are fewer and fewer clicks. But I talk to a lot of companies also about this. And there are also some that say, yes, the cake will become smaller. There will be less traffic. But we are better at SEO than the competition. And we will just wait until they're no longer profitable and buy them. And we don't expect to grow a lot, but we can grow our share and that way stay stable in terms of traffic. And the competition will go away. So if you are in a market, I don't know, let's say e-commerce in like not like tier 1 market, if all the other online shops are giving up, of course you can have a great time as an SEO. Like click-through rates go down, search volume goes down, but you can still take traffic that others are no longer fighting for. So no, SEO in itself is not dead, just this default growth assumption that many companies had for SEO, that is dead. And I have talked to multiple companies this year where the leadership team is afraid the company will die or needs to completely reinvent itself. Because there are some business models like news and media publishers, aggregators, affiliates, price comparison sites, product comparison sites. SEO is the main traffic driver and the whole business model doesn't work with SEO. So there will be a lot of movement in that market.
Yeah, that I agree with that. There's some business types that are like, I mean, for a long time, I actually felt like informational content was a waste. I basically felt that since 2019, which is when I discovered transactional pages, like conversion-based SEO landing pages, where it's like these transactional keywords, they are under-targeted because the search volume is lower. There's just naturally less people at the bottom of the funnel. So they're under-targeted, making them easier to rank for. They don't require as much work or backlinks. The pages can be 400 to 500 words versus a several thousand word informational article. And they convert like crazy because they're targeting transactional keywords. And so for a very, very long time, I felt like informational content wasn't the way. It's so far like that one of my good friends is an executive at Forbes. And to this day, I've talked about this. I've been talking about this on the show for years. To this day, I've been trying to have him convince the rest of the executive team to put in a product for Forbes because they have such crazy ranking power and who knows how much. Look, they're a brand and people are going to go to them for a while at least unless they become outdated because of all the influencers on Instagram and YouTube Shorts and TikTok. But like they can they can make any piece of business software and then target transactional keywords to get users for that and grow it pretty easily like that, at least at the beginning, and then scale into other areas. And we were talking about AI overviews before. Ahrefs did a study, and feel free to interrupt me if you disagree with this, but Ahrefs found that, so one, AI overviews were cutting clicks by 34.5%, but they were being triggered 99% on informational searches. Personally, I feel like just use informational content to build topical authority, but man, go after transactional keywords.
Yeah, in my last job, when I worked in e-commerce space, we felt zero impact of AI overviews, but we had 99.999% of our traffic was transactional. We barely ever optimized for anything else. And we did not feed AI overviews. We had no AI overviews for our keywords. People were sharing all these tricks, like what to search on Google Search Console to find AI overviews. We had a lot of traffic, but I didn't find any AI overviews we were ranking for a long time. It took very, very long until we actually saw some. And then it usually was questions about the brand, not like the actual transactional keywords. Because when people search for something like iPhone 16, 120 gigabytes black, what is an AI overview gonna do? Google wants to show their big Google shopping ad, maybe then this Google products grid, and then there are some organic rankings allowed to be under that so that people don't complain too much. It would make no sense for Google to have text answers for transactional keywords.
And I think you might disagree with this, but because a lot of these transactional keywords are under targeted and they're easy to rank for, because a lot of them are under targeted, I think you're less likely to see your competitors showing up for these transactional searches within an AI tool. Now, we can name things that contradict this, but no, I still feel pretty strongly about that. Whereas if you're targeting transactional keywords, you're still setting yourself up in a good place with AI search. But feel free to disagree with that.
Yeah, I think maybe we were in different spaces active for transactional keywords. Like for me, it was keywords like iPhone 16 or fridge. And I can tell you there's a lot of competition.
Yeah. Okay, I'll agree. I'll agree with that. But that's a very popular transactional keyword.
Yes.
There's going to be many sites competing for that keyword.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
I'm talking about transactional keywords that are specifically that are under targeted, where there's gaps in the market.
If you find something under-targeted, something where there's a market gap, of course, then you have it much easier, right? And then it's also more likely you will show up in LLMs if you are just the established source for that. One of the most impressive success stories I once heard is there was a time when browsers were not good yet at translating websites. And somebody started a very, very crappy online shop in Germany, but he did it in Turkish. Because none of the big retailers had thought that, hey, there's actually X% of the population that speaks Turkish. Let's target them. And I'm sure there are similar stories from the US with Spanish-speaking websites. And for keywords like fridge, this one-person company was beating the very big retailers. Of course, the search volume is tiny if you do it on the secondary language. But if you find these underserved markets, it's always super, super easy. Also in the food space, there are some brands that specifically target without something or for people with a certain disease that can be super, super impact. I mean, nowadays people are more aware of these topics. There are now probably 10 affiliates, but whenever you can find something where nobody is really doing it well and doing it at scale and with focus, yeah, can work amazingly well.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of sites. I actually think I'm very bullish on SEO. One of the things that has me bullish is I think less people are doing it. Like I think less people are doing it. People are continuing to search. Sure, more people are turning to AI tools to search, but I mean, as we've been talking about, you can optimize. There are ways to optimize for both SEO and for AI. And now you just have less competition. Some place where I guess the competition is moving, you can make the argument that competitors are moving to UGC, to Instagram, to YouTube, to TikTok, to Facebook. But guess what? If you know how to find keywords and look at search volume for keywords, and then take that keyword and you put it at the beginning of your title for the UGC or the beginning of the description for the UGC, and you actually mention it in a video, that's going to do pretty well too. So yeah, I'm kind of bullish about it. I think people who know how to create good content and also who know what to do with keywords and how to find keywords are going to do very well in the future.
Yeah, SEO skills are definitely still very, very helpful, whether people search on AI or Instagram or Google.
Yeah. Dude, you're a legend. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for inviting me.
Where should everybody find you?
I'm most active on LinkedIn, so you can just follow me there. And if you want to see what I'm building, you can just go to peak.ai, do a free 7-day trial, and then write me your feedback on LinkedIn.
Are you doing build in public with it? Like sharing all of your updates?
We are sharing our revenue from time to time, but no, we don't build in public.
Okay. For some reason, I thought you were doing build in public, which is pretty. That was literally, so like when I started my TikTok, I guess I'm up to 125,000 followers on TikTok now, and I started my TikTok. I have 207,000 on Instagram, and this YouTube channel has 40,000. But when I started my TikTok, so actually it's really funny. I was trying to do build in public in October of 2022 when I was living in Rome. I love Peter Levels. I love the indie hacker movement, and I was trying to do build in public. This was right before Elon bought Twitter, and I found that it was just so competitive. You had to spend so much time on Twitter every day doing build in public, and it was it was honestly pissing me off. It was taking so much to move the needle. And then I started using TikTok, and TikTok was really easy because there was just less savvy people on TikTok at the time. I still feel like social video is pretty easy, especially if you're consistent. But so I started using TikTok, and I started a new TikTok account, and I'm like, you know what? This attempt to do build in public on Twitter failed, but I want to show up for build in public on TikTok. And so I made my name on TikTok, build in public. And I just put up videos every day. And now if you search build in public on TikTok, I show up #1. And
Nice.
Actually, that's my handle on YouTube. There's no way that I'm going to show up #1 for build in public. I'm just searching it on YouTube. There's no way. Okay, yeah, I don't show up #1 for it. But no, I do show up in a few searches for build in public. That's funny. Yeah, because my handle on YouTube as well is build in public. but yeah, it's I'm a big fan of the movement. Anyway,
Yeah.
go on.
No, just mad respect for those follower counts and ranking #1 for build in public.
Oh yeah, thank you. I mean, I've literally made a video every day, a social video every day since November 1st, 2022. Like I haven't missed a single day, even when I was like, I flew to Barcelona to visit my now ex-girlfriend, and I got the norovirus, and I was deathly sick, and I still made a video. I still, dude, yeah, actually.
That's commitment. Commitment.
This podcast, so this is episode 816.
Wow.
I've done this every day in a row. No days missed. I started it 816 days ago. This is episode 816.
Bro, you're a machine.
Yeah.
You're a machine.
Thank
Here
you.
I was being proud of my 570-day streak on Reddit, and then you have an 800-day
No.
podcast streak.
Dude, that anything over 100 is still impressive. You've done so you've done a 500 and how many day streak on Reddit?
Let me check. I'm close to the next award that you get. Where do I see it? I'm 558 days of
And
daily Reddit usage. Only 11,000 people have unlocked that so far. So
wow.
maybe I can be one of the first 12,000, 15,000 who get that. I'm not sure it's something to be proud of that I'm Reddit addicted, but it's quite handy now that Reddit is so important.
Oh, Reddit's super important. Wait, so is this like 500 plus days of lurking, or is this like 500 plus days of posting?
I are not posting,
Okay.
but you need to have at least one like or one upvote or download that you give, like one interaction. You can't just scroll and read.
Are you doing Reddit with your name?
Yes.
So, okay. Because, yeah, are you using it to, I mean, I don't know if you can talk. I don't think I think if you do it transparently, it's not against the rules. So are you getting users from Reddit?
I often get inquiries for SEO consulting and then tell them, sorry, I don't do consulting. Sometimes people tell me, hey, I've also seen your stuff on Reddit, but I don't really use it as an like acquisition channel. I just hate it when people write things about SEO that are wrong, and then I feel inclined to write a comment like, actually, this is not true, or yeah, this is true in your case, but actually it's more complicated. That was like my main reason to be active on Reddit.
On the SEO subreddit.
Yeah, I'm mostly on the SEO subreddits, also product management, and I now joined like 30 geo, AEO, AI search subreddits and try to find the ones that I can tolerate because some of them are just too horrible. Yeah.
Dude, so on this show, like I've done so many of these episodes where I'm like, God, what am I going to talk about today? And one of the first places that I turn to is the SEO subreddit. And I've shared so much stuff from the SEO subreddit. I've honestly probably shared your comments as well, because I've shared so many threads from the SEO sub. I'm sure that I've shared a few of your comments on it. My favorite person on that, like just one of my favorite SEOs is Weblinker, who's a mod on the subreddit. And Weblinker, personally, I think he posts some of the most like fire SEO content. And I think he's pretty grounded and practical as well. I'm always like, yeah, I know who he is. He follows me on X, and I gotta get him. I gotta get him on the show because he's so great.
He's this New York agency guy, right?
Yeah. David.
Yeah, he started following me on Twitter to write that he disagrees with some of the things I wrote on Reddit. So he and I are not the best friends.
No, wait. Can you share? What does he disagree with you on?
He somehow is convinced that I promote that backlinks are not important, but I never said that. And I think I have a different understanding of EEAT than many other SEOs. And I think he is in this area of EEAT is bullshit. Everybody who talks about it is an idiot. I don't know. And I'm in this area, well, EEAT is like mainly backlinks, and like PageRank was the first EEAT algorithm, and you cannot like EEAT your website a lot because, again, why would Google trust you that you say you have authority? And somehow he didn't like one thing I wrote, and I blocked him on Reddit, or he blocked me. I actually don't know. Maybe we blocked each other. But then, yeah, he started commenting on everything that I wrote on X. Like, I was like, dude, like, I never said that. I don't disagree with the backlinks. Why do you write under each comment from me about the backlinks? Yeah. But yeah, most of his stuff is totally fine. Just we have the slight area of disagreement where he got a little bit, I don't know if I offended him, if he got emotional. I have no idea why. I was allowed to keep this. I have like a badge in our SEO, like SEO expert or something. He didn't take that away from me, so he doesn't seem to think that I'm an idiot. He just doesn't like me. I don't know. It's just funny.
Maybe he'll watch this and be like, oh, he says he doesn't believe that backlinks are bullshit. Okay.
I've written that to him like 30 times. I don't know how he could not know it.
Oh no. What? Wait. So what's your? What? Can you explain your unique perspective on EAT?
Yeah, I don't think that you need to install an EAT or EIT WordPress plugin. That's not working.
Does he think that?
I No,
Okay.
not to my knowledge.
Okay.
I
Okay.
doubt it. He seems like a smart guy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. 'Cause that's
and
great. I didn't even know that people were doing that. That's crazy.
yes, people are doing that. And then some SEOs just say EAT is bullshit. There's no EAT score, and they are right in the sentence that there is no EAT score. But if you think about what Google wants to achieve, EAT is actually an amazing concept in your head, like for a mental model to think about it. And indirectly, a lot of algorithms at Google will reward if you have EAT, or they cannot measure it, right? But they try to approximate it. And actually, the PageRank algorithm that just looks at which websites are linked the most from other like heavily linked websites, that actually is a form of EAT, right? Because the website that everybody is citing or recommending, that must be the one that has this expertise, authoritativeness, trustworthiness. So I think as a concept, it is amazing to think about how can I structure my SEO activities. But of course, people then tend to oversimplify it and say, yeah, you need to bring up your EAT score. You need to write in the footer that you have 500 employees and that you fact check this article. And then when I talk about EAT, I often get thrown into the same basket as these people who like very much oversimplify it. I don't know if this is a super unique take, because to me it's been obviously like this for like many years. But I think many people see EAT as something that Google measures on your website. And it's the same as the LLMs.txt. Google is on your website. Google is measuring your relevance, how relevant your content is. That is what matters for the like index-based retrieval of information. But in terms of signing you trust, Google is not going to do that primarily based on your website. Google is going to do that by signals outside of your website. And I'm very convinced if you have this concept of EAT at the back of your head, you will make good decisions. And EAT is in the quality rater guidelines, so they give feedback based on EAT. So these like gold standard, silver standard machine learning sets or feedback set, test sets at Google, also all the input and feedback for the machine learning algorithms, also the validation if a new ranking algorithm is put to production or not. All of this is done with humans having these EAT topics in the back of their head. So just also have it in the back of your head as an SEO.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the problem with SEO, and one of the reasons that you see so much tribalism in SEO is because you have very technical people who want to figure out common rules that cannot be violated. And that cannot be violated because it's going to break my mental model of this, and that's going to drive me crazy, and I don't want to adapt and change my mental model. And so you have these people who are essentially trying to understand reputation and human language, and those two, like the messiness of human language and of actually being reputable and authoritative, like the messiness of just the way that the human brain works and trying to condense it into an algorithm, it's it's so messy that it's if you're extremely technical and you want very simple rules, they don't gel together. They don't go well together. But I mean, so let me ask you, like, I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but like, if someone was like, okay, I need to be have more experience, I need to have more expertise, I need to be seen as more of an authority and be more trusted. Like, what should a brand be doing with their site?
I mean, in a very abstract sense, if you want to rank for the keyword sneakers, you should reach a state where if somebody in your country types sneaker into Google and doesn't find your brand, they think that Google is broken. That is like the end goal you have to reach. And then, of course, with different budgets and different kinds of companies, you can do very different things. I think you can actually send a ton of positive signals to Google if you do TV advertising and get people to search for, I don't know, let's say you build a new booking websites and people then search for hotels New York, I don't know, newbooking.com, whatever. Like these kinds of searches. If you can get people to search for your website, Google will know that and see that in the search volume. Google will see that in name servers, like Google is running one of the largest name servers, so they know which domains are most requested. They might see it in Chrome UX data, in many other areas. If you can get people to actually seek you out, they will leave trails on the internet, like how often your brand is mentioned on Gmail, on Google Chat, on all of these systems that Google in theory has access to and might or might not use. Or if you can get news media websites to cover you. Like one very, very good example. In Germany, actually I don't know if they were known outside of Germany, there once was a band called Tokyo Hotel. And they became like a mega success overnight. And every single news website wrote about them. And within 2 days, they ranked #1 for the keyword Tokyo Hotel. And normally you would say, no, it can't be. A new domain receiving this many backlinks, they would be immediately penalized by Google. It would trigger something. And this is true if you buy shitty backlinks from small websites. But if the 10 largest news media website, actually it was probably the 200 largest ones, write about you in an article, mentioning your name, linking to your website, and there are suddenly 50,000 searches for Tokyo Hotel every day that are not going to a hotel but are looking for something related to music, you can shift Google's perspective or perception of you. So if you can get some kind of positive shitstorm in the media, some kind of virality, that will be very positive for you. By the way, even a viral TikTok video can help because people will start searching for you. And Google can also realize, okay, there's an entity, a TikTok account has the same name of the website, maybe is linked from the website with the same as attribute, one of the areas where structured data really makes sense. And the TikTok account also links back to the website. Like these are all kinds of brand signals that Google would be stupid not to use.
Yeah, that's honestly, I love how holistic that view of SEO is. I really appreciate that. I talk about that all the time on the show. So I think that's a good way to end the podcast. Thank you again for coming on. This was so much fun. I hope you'll come back. And maybe someday, you know what, a dream of mine will be to do an episode between you, me, and Weblinker. Hopefully.
I would be 100% in for that.
Oh man, okay. I mean, I have him on DM, so I don't know. Maybe I'll pitch him on this. All right, for everybody watching and listening, this is episode 816 of The Edward Show. This is my daily digital marketing podcast, 816 days in a row. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye now.